Here now to weigh in is White House Deputy Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. Stephen, this week the president doubled down on that promise to take on sanctuary cities, saying they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens. So why are these Democrat leaders still insisting, Stephen, on putting obstacles in the way of our law enforcement and these men and women who are just trying to do their jobs? And it seems like, these quote unquote leaders are really adding fuel to the fire when it comes to violence against our law enforcement.
Yes, well, sanctuary cities are jurisdictions that shield and shelter criminal illegal aliens from deportation. So, for example, in Minneapolis and Minnesota, when an illegal alien commits a crime and is deportable and can and should be removed from the country, the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota prevent ICE from arresting and deporting the offender, even when they are charged or convicted of heinous crimes, including crimes against women, crimes against children, crimes of violence, and instead they release them back onto the street where they can continue to reoffend. So ICE over and over and over again goes out into the community to find and arrest these fugitives who have since committed additional egregious crimes after they were released by Fry and Waltz and Ellison. These are acts of insurrection against the laws of the United States and against the sovereignty of the United States. Foreign illegal aliens who broke into this country, who then raped children, who committed human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, protected, shielded, sheltered, coddled, defended at every level by the leadership in Minnesota. And then when ICE goes out to make these arrests, they unleash violent mobs to attack, assault, and impede ICE officers. And they refuse to allow the city police to protect those ICE officers in the conduct of their duties, willfully aiding and abetting this violence.
And it's so crazy to see, Stephen. It goes against every ounce of common sense one would think that a leader in a position like those in Minnesota would have. And now you have Democrat lawmakers who are calling for the impeachment of Kristi Noem. Give me your take on that, because I think a lot of people look at what she's been able to do as DHS secretary and they say, well, thank goodness someone is finally dealing with this problem. Thank goodness someone is finally taking it to all these people, as you just laid out, who are so detrimental to our way of life here. How do you see all this playing out?
Well, this is really a core question about whether or not the federal government is in charge of federal law or not. This question is foundational to the American Republic. We have one nation. We have one set of federal laws. We have one constitution. We have one law of immigration. We have one law of citizenship. If you allow a city or a state to decide immigration laws for themselves, you have an immigration law for Minnesota, you have an immigration law for Minneapolis, you have an immigration law for St. Paul, you have an immigration law for Los Angeles, and for San Francisco, and for New York. What you have then is total, complete anarchy and the dissolution of the American Republic. What Democrats are doing is vote harvesting, fraud harvesting, ballot harvesting, crime harvesting. Ask yourself, why would Fry, why would Waltz sanction such egregious violence against ICE officers? Because they understand that this scheme, this mass migration scheme, is the heart of the Democratic Party's political power. It is their plan for power today and long into the future. So they know that if this administration of President Trump is successful in reversing this invasion, it will deal a generational blow to Democrat political power.
Well, before I let you go, and just very quickly, we know the Democrats are also weighing a partial government shutdown as the far left demands defunding ICE and opposing a funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security until that happens. What would that mean, Stephen, very quickly, for the agents on the ground, for these men and women of ICE?
Well, to be clear, shutting down DHS means that Democrats, radical Democrats, are shutting down Secret Service, they're shutting down ICE, they're shutting down Border Patrol, they're shutting down TSA, they're shutting down the organs of Homeland Security at every single level, waging war against the defense of our nation, against terrorists, against murderers, against criminal cartels. These ICE officers are going out every day facing death threats to remove some of the most violent gangs from this nation: MS-13, Latin Kings, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa Cartel, organizations that would sooner kill you than look at you. That's who they're fighting every single day. They're being doxxed, tailed, assaulted, harassed, and violently attacked as they're going out to battle the most violent criminal organizations on planet Earth. And Democrats, the Democrat Party, is siding with these criminal organizations. That's how you end up living in a third world country. A third world country is a country where federal law enforcement lives in fear and the criminals are in control. That's what we are facing if Democrats are successful. President Trump will not let that happen.
Well, Stephen, we appreciate you coming on to talk about it. Thank you for continuing the fight for safety in our country. We're incredibly grateful for all you, the president, and the entire administration are doing. So thanks so much for joining us here tonight.